Welcome to XYPN Radio, where your host Alan Moore brings you into a community of fee-only financial planners who want to profitably and successfully serve Gen X and Gen Y clients. If you're ready to get the knowledge you need from leaders in your field, learn from forward-thinking advisors, and take action on your own goals, XYPN Radio is the show for you. Here's your host.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I'm your host, Alan Moore, and I'm excited to have XYPN member Sara Stanich, founder of Cultivating Wealth based in New York, on the show today. Sara started her career in marketing, starting with a marketing agency that grew from something like 12 employees to over 200 during her tenure, and she got to wear a lot of different hats and work in a lot of different positions during that time. She ultimately became the director of marketing for a Fortune 500 company, which she actually met her boss on an airplane, which is amazing, and in 2007 decided to make a career change into financial planning. She did a short stint in the brokerage world before becoming a Raymond James independent firm advisor, and then ultimately launched her own firm in 2016. Sara does quite a bit of divorce financial work, helping her clients navigate the process from a financial perspective. She's growing really fast and has added a full-time team member and is likely going to be adding another in the near future. We talked about how she balances running a successful business with being a mom of 3 young kids and how she's found ways to just balance it all. For anyone interested in career changing into this business or wondering if you can run a successful firm while your kids are still young, this episode will answer a lot of those questions. XYPN's Can't Miss Annual Conference returns to St. Louis in September 2019. This event is jam-packed with valuable content for new firm launchers and established firm owners alike. Take a much-needed break from working in your business to work on your business and connect with like-minded advisors leading the financial planning movement. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/XYPN live radio to grab your pass today. You do not want to miss this. You can find any of the additional resources that we mentioned during the episode at xyplanningnetwork.com/205. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN radio listeners. It's the community of advisors we've all been looking for that's there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Without further ado, here's my interview with Sara. Hey, Sara, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
So let's give listeners just a bit of an overview of you and your practice. So where are you located? How many clients do you serve if you have a niche? And then we'll dig into the details.
Okay. Well, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. I started the firm in 2016, but I've been in the industry since 2007. And I work with a lot of couples. There's kind of 2 niches going on. I have a lot of couples with young kids because I have young kids and I kind of attract that. And also the thing that I do that most advisors don't is work with people going through divorce. So I'm a CDFA and I've been doing that type of work for actually close to 10 years now too.
Okay. So yeah, definitely a lot to dig in there. When you started the firm, did you start with clients or did you start from scratch 3 years ago?
I was able to bring over most of my clients.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, we'll definitely talk about that. So you've had a bit of a winding career into financial planning. So give listeners just sort of a background on you and sort of where you came from.
Yeah. I mean, a friend of mine used to say my resume was like a rock and roll tour.
As a compliment?
Well, I'll see it that way. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to NYU for college. I have a liberal arts degree in German and European studies. I worked at a German company, Hugo Boss, in the fashion industry after college briefly for a couple years. And I didn't want to do that. That was around the time that the internet was, really growing, kind of like Internet 1.0. And I worked at a really pioneering digital marketing online advertising firm. I loved marketing, but I wanted to be on the client side. And so I transitioned out of there. I worked in market research briefly. And then I was director of marketing at a Fortune 500 company in Connecticut that was actually a really male-dominated industry, construction equipment manufacturing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That may be more male-dominated than financial planning.
Definitely. And then during that time, I got my MBA part-time at NYU, and I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. And NYU is really a finance school and knew a lot of people in the financial industry. And basically, I knew someone who was very successful at Merrill Lynch and said, "Oh, you'd be so good at this. You have sales experience. You you'd be so good at this. And I joined Merrill Lynch in 2007, which was weird timing because it was like right at the peak of the market.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I also immediately got pregnant and had my first child in 2008.
Perfect timing to start a new
Everything
career.
was hitting the fan. Yeah.
So just, sort of climb the ranks in marketing. How do you learn marketing? And this is something that I think some people think folks are born marketers, or, you just go to school, you get a degree and therefore you're a marketer. But I mean, like, you really climb the ranks without a background in marketing to become director of marketing at a Fortune 500 company. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of sort of sales and inside sales type experience. And then it was an entry level position at an online advertising firm. And I did like every job at that company. I was employee number 20 and it grew to 200 in the time I was there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was an account coordinator, and then I was a media planner. So I was like buying space on websites. And then I was an account manager. So I was the main client contact, which actually has a lot of, parallels to what we do now, being that account, the client relationship manager and managing a team. And then, when you're in an agency, you work long hours, you don't really like own the project in the way. Basically, I wanted to be on the client side. I envied the people who had like the cush corporate jobs on the client side. And I also wanted more diverse marketing experience, not just online, but print and TV and all those things. And that led to a role in market research. I also did a lot of trade show work when I was in college, like setting up and working at trade shows. Also very male dominated. We sold equipment to auto body repair shops. So yeah. And actually the guy who became my boss at the construction equipment manufacturer, I met him on an airplane.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. And they were looking for someone in marketing, and, we got to chatting, and it was like, oh, you should come in and interview. And yeah, I got the job.
So, I mean, that's like the pinnacle of success for a marketer, right? Is director of marketing at a Fortune 500 company. I mean, I guess maybe there's a chief title ahead of that somewhere, but what drove the decision to transition out of that? I mean, again, sort of the pinnacle of success for a marketer to, getting started as a financial advisor, which I assume was a step back financially and definitely lowered down the corporate ladder.
Definitely. Well, I mean, it was a mixed, thing. So my time there was ending. It's funny, like the cyclical nature of that industry too. I mean, construction and like the real estate industry, had a lot of ups and downs, mostly ups during the time I worked there from 2001 to 2006. But basically there was a management change, and my new boss and I didn't really see eye to eye. And so I wanted to I had a very long commute. There were just a lot of reasons I wanted to make a change.
Okay. So then why financial services? With that background, you could have gone into anything. Was it really just like someone thought you'd be good at it, so you gave it a shot, or was there more to it than that?
I mean, I was definitely searching for something different. I was searching for a change. And I mean, I did do some interviews, interviewing. I mean, I could have gotten another agency job, but I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to have more control over my schedule and my fate. So, that's how I found it. That being said, I mean, there were a lot of unpleasant surprises of like suddenly being like the low man on the totem pole in the training program at Merrill Lynch, from having like my own office and a team. I had been successful. And so it's funny when you go into one of those training programs, you have these high goals, production goals, and then you get this big bonus, and then, you could, do really well as a financial advisor. I was very confident, like, oh, well, of course I'll be able to do that. I have an MBA and, I have, all the sales experience, and I know people who, with money. And so I'll be able to, to crush these goals and get that $100,000 bonus. And it, of course it really did not work out that way. As, I joined in 2007. By the time I got all my licenses and everything, it was 2008, and, the crash was beginning. Oh, and also when I went into production, I was like 7 months pregnant. So no one really wanted to work with me. So
from a client perspective, you didn't feel like anybody wanted to work with you?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I'm new in the industry and I'm obviously about to go on leave.
Do you think it had mainly to do with the leave, or do you think folks were worried you wouldn't come back from leave?
I mean, it's hard to say, but
Fair enough.
yeah, I mean, to me, there was really no question that I wouldn't come back.
So yeah, I mean, you made the change at, I mean, quite possibly the worst timing to career change into this industry. So obviously the big bonuses I don't think happen for anybody, particularly those who are just getting started and sort of starting to build out that book of business. So how long were you there for?
So just under 2 years. So at the end of 2008, basically everyone who was below, a certain line, was laid off. So, so I wasn't making my numbers. A lot of other people weren't either. But I mean, to be honest, I think it was a blessing in disguise because it really wasn't the right environment for me. It's definitely a sales culture. And I needed more time to kind of find my way in the industry. And so I'm glad that I was able to leave that place before, I had the whole like golden handcuffs type of arrangement, before I had a big book of business that would have been, an issue to try and move. And so I left there and I did some interviewing. And so even in early 2009, I mean, I got offers right away. I mean, I already had all my licenses. I had an MBA, but I joined Raymond James, independent advisor. I joined an existing branch. I didn't have enough assets to start my own branch, but I joined an existing branch, but I didn't have any kind of like training program or salary or anything. So, to me, yes, I made very little money, at the year, but I also didn't have the same type of, pressure and ties.
So they didn't offer any type of training program for advisors that were moving over?
No.
Interesting. Do you remember what level of assets you had to have in order to start your own branch?
This was in 2009. I'm guessing maybe it was 10 million or 20 million. I don't even remember, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah,
but
just
I had
curious.
less than that. I only had a few million in assets. And I joined a firm. I joined a branch that was like a larger branch that had some satellite offices, but I was at the main branch, but it was very, very old school brokers, like doing like trades. And I mean, I joke that it was in the 2000s, but it's kind of like, I experienced like the 1980s.
The smoking jackets and bourbon.
The carpet was from like the 1980s. But, it was right on Wall Street. It was, the average age in the office was like 70. I mean, it was, I definitely did not fit in. Yeah, I definitely did not fit in. But they wanted me to succeed, but they really weren't very helpful.
Yeah. How do you take that on? I mean, it's, the closest I can experience is the age difference, but I mean, you're walking into, an age difference, a gender difference. I mean, like the table is very much set against you in that setting. And so how do you handle that and be able to continue to move forward without that just sort of crippling you and being such a hindrance to your success?
I think that part of like my, confidence and ability to deal with that. I mean, a couple of things. One, I was a little older, so I wasn't right out of college. So I had experienced some success. And also basically it's like, well, if this doesn't work out, then I can do something else. I had confidence in myself that I'd be able to do something else. And frankly, I also had a very supportive husband. So especially, those first couple of years, I really didn't make much money, but he said, okay, well, do you think you like this and you're going to be happy doing this? Then, he could see that this career has really great potential as well. And so I kept at it.
So how long were you at that firm then?
From 2009 to 2016.
7 years at a firm that feels like that mismatched. That's a long.
I tried to get away a couple of times, but yeah. And so in 2015, I gave them so much notice. But in 2015, I told them I wanted to leave. I mean, during that time, they also upgraded the office. I mean, partly to please me. So anyway, so I wanted to leave. They were not happy about that because they felt they had done a lot of things for me. And I initially used Raymond James as my custodian because they have an RIA channel, which was an easier transition for my clients. And, I lost some clients in that transition as well, because I still had a few clients that weren't fee. And I had some clients that were, sort of like had been referred to me by that branch. And I just left them all behind to avoid any conflicts.
So you made the transition over to Raymond James RIA platform. What year was that in?
2016.
Okay, so that was 2016. And then you ended up separating from that platform and launching your own RIA then in 2017?
No. So in 2016, I launched my own RIA, but I used Raymond James as my custodian.
Gotcha.
So like instead of TD Ameritrade or whatever. But then I switched to TD Ameritrade.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I forget that Raymond James actually, they have a true independent arm, because I know they have like 47 different ways to associate with them.
Yeah, there's 3. There's like an employee, an independent advisor, where I was like that's what I was, where I was like fee-based, and then like a pure RIA platform. So I was fee only for sure. I wasn't a hybrid. They also have a hybrid version.
I was going to say, do they have an RIA that you can be fee only and attached to their RIA instead of having your own?
You can't, I don't think you can call yourself fee only if you do that.
Okay. Yeah, I would assume, because the RIA is owned by Raymond James, who has lots of commission stuff going on. So yeah, so lots of options. So you decided to stay with Raymond James, which makes sense. You can, leverage, keep your assets there and not have to fully repaper everybody. But it sounds like that transition went pretty smoothly. I mean, obviously losing a couple clients is never fun, but it sounds like most of them went with you. What, in the 7 years that you were there at that firm, where were you finding success from a, business development perspective to be able to really, build out your business?
I looked at it, over the years. I mean, I tried different things. I tried different types of seminars and, kind of focusing on, what I know, which was female executives, which was families with young kids. And then it just sort of, business came to me with, an accountant I knew said, I have a client who's going through a divorce. Can you help her? Someone reached out to me on a local board, that I'm going through a divorce. I feel like I need a financial planner. So I got my CDFA, I want to say in 2010, right after I got the CFP, right after I finished the CFP. And there's different training, mediation training, and also collaborative divorce training. So doing those types of trainings. And I came to realize that I liked doing that kind of work because my income wasn't 100% tied to the stock market. Like I saw it as a way to kind of diversify my income a little bit. And then some of those clients, not all, but some percentage of those clients became long-term clients. And those were some of my best clients, to be honest. The most loyal, the most giving of referrals, the good assets. So I focused on that. I put a little more time and effort into focusing on that through events and networking and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and a woefully underserved marketplace. Listeners, by now know I had my CDFA for a time and did some collaborative divorce work. It was, I'll say, too hard for me emotionally and mentally. I really struggled with just how much emotion and how challenging it was. But when you could see it through, just amazing on the back end. Just, I remember one of my CDFA mentors told me he feels like he gets to save families. No one in the end, or pretty much no one, is just like super excited on the tail end of a divorce, but you can keep people from wanting, spend the rest of their lives wanting to kill each other. So
yeah, it's really hard work. And a lot of people say, niche. It's, I should just focus 100% on that. But I don't want to do that 100% of the time. So I like doing that type of work. It's rewarding. People are so grateful, and you're really helping them through like one of the most difficult times in their lives. But I don't want to spend 100% of my time working on that.
So what type of divorce work are you primarily doing? Is it collaborative where you're the neutral third party, or are you representing, one of the parties, as they're going through that process?
I mean, it's a mix. So I have been the neutral and collaborative cases. I think that's one of the toughest roles, to be honest. I would say the most common scenarios where I'm kind of like a consultant to one party and in the mediation process. So I prefer the clients. I don't like the really contentious cases. So I feel like people who are at least trying the mediation process, they probably have a family. They probably, on some level want to resolve this, but just feel informed and make good decisions. And, I can help them do that.
Yeah, the collaborative work, I think that's a good way of putting it, that it is really hard work. I think it's really rewarding and really meaningful, but it is tough to, because the whole thing is, let's just keep as much money out of Uncle Sam's pocket as we can, and we'll just split the money between the two of you. But in the end, like, there's so much emotion and so much stuff going on in that time that,
it gets really expensive. And so everyone starts to question your value, and I don't know, it's tough.
But it has been a successful way for you to get clients and be able to build relationships with centers of influence and that sort of thing. So I totally understand your point of enjoying the work, but not wanting that to be 100% of your day, because you'd almost have to be wired as a therapist to be able to get through the day like that. So where else are you seeing, or have you seen success outside of the divorce avenue, just like on how clients are finding you?
I mean, the Fee Only Network. Some people found me on the XY Planning Network or the CFP board, and just, from my website and from referrals from other clients. So I think some of my latest clients coming in are, kind of like high income, dual income couples, really local, and, just they have a lot in common with me and my associate, and need advice. Like, should we buy a home? Should we, can we afford private school for our kids? We've changed jobs several times. We have accounts all over the place. Should we consolidate that? So those clients I feel like they're really good clients. Or we have life insurance through work. Do we need more? Of course, yes. So
yeah, a lot of what we talk about, I mean, that's the young professional, like that's what happens in your 30s and 40s, right? It's just all of these questions, and they seem to happen, every 4 to 6 months, there's a new one.
Yeah. So they're really motivated. And then, I have quite a few clients too, some who are, post-divorce, but women who are kind of in their 50s and starting to think about retirement, and maybe either they're divorced or never married, or they're the primary breadwinner. I think I have a fair number of those clients too.
So can you talk to me about the decision to transition from Raymond James over to TD? I mean, would you have done that initially if it had been easier, or did, service levels drop at Raymond James, sort of any particular reason to make that transition?
It was really more about the technology and the costs. So, the one thing with Raymond James is their technology is actually good, but you have to kind of stay in their world. And I wanted to use, other tools, and TD Ameritrade integrates with everything, and the internal costs are low. So I just felt like that was the future.
Yeah. And it's interesting how each custodian sort of has their own approach. TD definitely has the open architecture. They'll integrate with anyone. They were the first one that was willing to integrate with AdvicePay, whereas the other ones are like, oh, well, we really only try to do like 1 or 2 integrations. So let's see. It's just interesting.
Yeah, but I really don't have anything bad to say about them. I mean, their customer service, their client service is good. Like the trading platform. I mean, it's good. Like there's certain things I miss, about them, but I'm happy with TD too.
Okay, awesome. So talk to me about your service model and fee structure. So new client coming in, what can they expect to pay, and sort of the overall services that you offer?
So I do like an introductions call, like a 15-minute introductions call to talk to the client and tell them, basically there are 2 ways that we can be compensated. So one is a flat fee where they're paying for advice, and we can do that for an individual. It's $4,500, which covers the first year, or $6,000 for a couple. And that can be broken out into payments or upfront. Or I would say it's actually more of our income comes from asset-based fees, and it's 1% of assets under management. And so, and the financial planning services are covered under that. So financial planning, I mean, there's certain core areas that go into the financial plan: retirement outlook, investment recommendations, insurance review, company benefits. Also, I have quite a few clients with like stock options or company stock, quite a few clients who are making real estate decisions or like buying and selling. And so helping them with that is kind of as often a meeting in and of itself. And that's all covered under the asset-based fee. So say I have a client with, $500,000 in assets to manage. Well, that's $5,000 a year. So we do that asset-based fee. But say they are just starting like an investment account for the first time. Well, then it might be some combination of they pay like a flat fee, a planning fee up front, which I feel like makes logical sense because a lot of the work is up front. But then, that account grows over time with the 1%.
Can you tell me sort of your agenda for that 15-minute meeting? Because I know advisors do this in so many different ways. I pretty much just would meet with people for an hour, which is not the most efficient thing. So, what is the expectation for that meeting? And is it you asking questions? Is it just you immediately sharing, hey, this is our price. If this doesn't work, not interested in moving on?
Yeah, I always say the best place for us to start is, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and why you reached out? So it's like they scheduled the meeting, so there must be some reason. So, so it could be someone who is going through a divorce and they got my name from so-and-so, and so the divorce work, it's always flat fees, of course, not managing any assets and that type of work, so they're telling me a little bit about themselves, some of the basic questions they have. And then I say, okay, this is how, you have a lot in common with our clients, or maybe you have nothing in common with our clients and someone else would be a better fit. But say they have a lot in common with our clients, I'm interested in meeting with you again. And I tell them a little bit about the fee structure, and we try and schedule a consultation meeting, which is also free, but I ask people to prepare. So that 15-minute call, I don't ask them to prepare anything, to give me any statements, anything like that. I'm just, they can just talk off the cuff. It's kind of low pressure to schedule, 15-minute call. But then for the consult meeting, I prefer to do that in person if they're local. Sometimes we do like a Zoom video, but I ask them, to upload documents. So I know, okay, what kind of income, what kind of assets, we're talking about. And by the time they've kind of made that commitment, so some people don't schedule the consult. They say, I'll think about it. And, they never schedule that consult. But of the ones that schedule, I think I've been sticking better to this process in the past, 6 months or so. And it's like 80% of the people who actually do all the prep, for the consult that are, committing.
Wow. Yeah, I guess if they're pulling together that much information, that much data, they're very interested in your services at that point.
Yeah. And I'll just give a shout out to Ariel Minicozy, who, I hired to help me with like my process and, automating some of those emails and scheduling and such.
Very cool. Yeah. We had her on the show not too long ago. So yeah. So thank you for going through that. So the 15-minute call, again, advisors do this so differently. So for advisors out there who are struggling with trying to figure out how do you lay the groundwork, how do you vet to see if someone's going to be a good fit before you commit an hour of time and getting data from them and that sort of thing, a 15-minute call may be all it takes to be able to quickly assess, okay, is this going to be a good fit or not? And the truth is, we do that with when we hire new team members. We do a quick 15-minute call to see, we call it the "do you give a crap" phone call. Do you actually want to work here? Do you actually want a job? And in a way, it's the same thing. We do that before we commit to an hour-long sit down with them. So that makes sense to me.
It's funny because I used to do like a lot of time wasting consults. And also I work from my home now. So I really don't, if someone's not going to work with me, I really don't want them coming to like my home.
Sure.
And so, the 15-minute call is just, a good way to vet that out. And also, clients going through divorce, they're struggling, with money. And so I don't want someone to come here, talk my ear off for 2 hours and then feel like either they got the advice that they needed and they can move on, or, oh, well, can I pay you for an hour at a time? And no, you can't.
So you have that quick call, so the 15-minute call, so they're at least going to be a good fit. They're going to, they're within your area of expertise, that sort of thing. So you then ask them to upload data. What system do you use for that?
It's jot form. So I schedule with Schedule Once, and they schedule the consult, and they get like a questionnaire with jot form, and then there's a link to upload documents, which goes into a Dropbox.
And is that really just like a comprehensive? You're gathering statements and tax returns and just across the board?
Yeah. But the questionnaire asks them some questions like, okay, well, do you own or rent? Do you have student loans? Do you have a 401k? It sort of asks some questions so they know what to upload. And sometimes there's some things missing, but it's usually a very good place to start.
Okay. So then what is the remainder of the process? So they have you called it a consult meeting. Is that sort of a going over data type of meeting?
Yeah. So the consult meeting, I have a presentation, which I used to do in the first meeting, but it's just a PowerPoint, like kind of a capabilities presentation. And toward the end, I say, I've got a chart that's something like, okay, well, here's a general financial plan. These are some of the core areas that would be covered in a financial plan. And then the next slide is, well, here's what we would focus on for your financial plan to start with. And so, by looking at their statements, I've got some idea of, okay, well, you have like 9 accounts here that could be consolidated to 4. You have like 60% cash and you're 32 years old, and this is not growing for you or even keeping up with inflation, or you have 2 kids and you're underinsured, those sorts of things. We can find some things to work on. Or you told me in the meeting that you want to buy a home, but how much can you afford? Those types of questions. So I have a sense in that consult meeting of like, here's what we would work on. And then I make sure we're in agreement. After the meeting, I send them a proposal. I want them to sleep on it. And if they say like, yes, let's move forward, well, then, we schedule our discovery meeting. We've got our financial planning agreement. We've got, other documents and paperwork. And so, so they say, the discovery meeting is, we've got the statements already, but it's a little bit more qualitative than quantitative. I do a mind map on the whiteboard, ask them, I do the data points, behavioral finance, the wealth potential survey with them. They feel understood after that meeting, and it gives them, basically people like to talk about themselves. It gives them a chance to talk about themselves and for me to get to know them and make sure we're not missing anything as well.
So I want to talk about 2 of those pieces. Data points is a technology that they're usually at the conference. I've taken a look at it, and it's really cool because it was created by the daughter of the guy who wrote Millionaire Next Door, and helping just sort of identify those traits, right, that lead to financial success, financial health. So how do you use that assessment? Because my understanding is they take it and it says, what are there 4 to 6 areas, and it sort of ranks you in terms of where you're at. I mean, how are you then leveraging that or using that to decide whether or not to work with a client or where to focus some of the efforts if they're low in one area?
It's more to focus it, and also with couples, I think it makes for an interesting conversation about where they're different. I mean, the different areas where my clients tend to score low is on frugality. My clients tend to be spenders, I guess.
Yep.
They tend to score pretty high on confidence. Maybe that's, false confidence. I don't know. And pretty low on planning and monitoring. So planning and monitoring, to me, that's something, we can help you with that because we use this online portal, Right Capital, where we can both see your information. You're going to have we're going to get you in the habit of planning and monitoring. And that is a habit of people who are building wealth. And so people are interested in that.
So really helping to show the value on the qualitative value, because it's so hard to say like, planning and monitoring is worth $4,000 a year, but it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that helps, and people, I don't know, it's interesting and it's something they haven't seen before. I think it always results in interesting conversations.
So then you also mentioned doing mind mapping. So this is something I'm hearing more and more advisors going this direction and leveraging mind maps as a way of helping to show a client where they're at financially. So can you just talk to me about, like, 1, what system you use, and then 2, how you leverage mind maps, and is it an ongoing piece or is it just a one-time?
It's more of a one-time. I use coggle.it is the website.
Okay.
And it's like inexpensive. But I have a whiteboard in my home office, and when they come into the meeting, there's, their name in the middle, and then there's relationships, values, assets, liabilities. I've got one for goals and possibilities. So, I find that people don't really know what their financial goals are. And it's almost like a very loaded, like high pressure question to say, well, so what are your financial goals? But people open up more when you ask about possibilities. What are some of the things you could do in the next 5 years? And I like to focus on 5 years. I think it's more tangible. People can.
Yeah, tangible.
Yeah. Yeah. So in 5 years, well, how old are you going to be in 5 years? How old are your kids going to be? What grade are they going to be in? It really, I think people, walk away with this. And this is a conversation they haven't had before, especially if it's, with their spouse there too.
And that's something that's primarily in that upfront meeting. That's not something you're keeping updated on an ongoing basis then?
No. I mean, I guess I really haven't been doing it much more than a year. So
that's fair.
Maybe I'll think about that.
Yeah, I mainly ask because that's the complaint I hear about them is they're really manual to keep updated. But again, a really powerful visual for, being able to see where a client is at.
Yeah. And so I put it into the system, I PDF it and, keep it in their folder, and also you usually send it out in the recap for that meeting. So I think it's interesting for the client. I think a lot of my clients tend to work in creative fields, honestly. And I think that a visual is much more powerful. I mean, I think most people are visual thinkers. And so that helps them to understand, what a financial plan is in a way that a spreadsheet full of numbers doesn't.
Yeah, I love that framing because, again, it's so overwhelming. We enjoy spreadsheets because we're financial people. But the vast majority of Americans did not get into finance or accounting. It does just simplify it and it helps make it more tangible, to your point. I like that framing that, in the end, it's just about making a visual so they can just see what a financial plan really is.
Yeah.
So remind me, how many clients or client households are you working with now?
With assets, it's like 89. And then I usually have about a dozen sort of fee projects going on, like no asset clients at any given time.
And you have one associate, or how big's the team?
So I have a just about full-time employee. She's also a CFP and just got her CDFA too. And she's been with me, it'll be a year next month. And then I use a virtual assistant for paperwork. And I've used some paraplanners here and there, but I'm not really using anyone right now.
So one almost full-time person and then a VA. So I'd say pretty streamlined for the growth of the company. Where do you feel like you want the company to go? Have you spent much time thinking about sort of what you want this business to be?
Yeah, I want to grow. And really what I need are people to meet with clients. So, my time is limited. And so a paraplanner it helps. I mean, the work we do can be really time consuming, putting together the reports and everything. But I also need to take, client tasks off my plate. So I really like doing sales and marketing and even the compliance and accounting and sort of strategic planning. I enjoy that. But a lot of you can get really like kind of in the weeds with client tasks. So I like having the VA, they do money movement, they do paperwork. So that was great to get that off my plate. Like I basically don't do any paperwork. I try not to touch any paperwork at all. But there's always, there are meetings to schedule. There are reviews to prep. My associate does most of that too. But I would like to have more people like her who can run a meeting, talk to a client. The client will go to her instead of always coming to me. And frankly, I think I have a lot to offer. I mean, I'm SEC registered. I have like a ton of opportunities in my local market. And, I think that, I think sky's the limit.
Do you see yourself continuing to shift into more marketing? I mean, because in the end, that is your background. That's, a gift that you have that many of us in financial planning do not. So is it an area where you feel like as you start to grow, you can really shift and put on the CMO hat and really focus there? Or do you enjoy sort of other parts of running the business more?
I mean, I enjoy working with clients, but I would say I can better leverage my time, I enjoy marketing. I mean, I don't enjoy compliance. So,
Fair enough.
And kind of stress out a little bit about that. But I definitely enjoy marketing, enjoy writing. There's lots of other things that, I think we can do to grow the firm. But I enjoy working with clients, but it's like the paperwork and sort of the, small tasks are distracting for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're just at a point in the business when you have 10 clients, you have time and you do that stuff. And as you grow, those are the things that you start handing off. Anything that is just not a good use of your time or you're not good at, which I think that's one of the bigger struggles that firm owners have, is admitting that there are things we're not good at.
Yeah. And frankly, raising prices, to have fewer, especially the divorce clients, frankly, like I can't keep all the details in my head for like a dozen people's divorces.
Right.
So, I mean, really the right number is like 3 or 4 at a time. So yeah, I feel like I've definitely started to realize like my own limits of just how much, we can handle at once.
Have you raised your fees since you launched your firm?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I used to do smaller projects. Like I kept trying to, there's definitely a demand for people who are like, well, I don't need a comprehensive plan. I just need this one thing, or I just need a couple hours of advice, or, with divorces, oh, my case is really simple. It never is. And so I tried to make like smaller packages of flat fees of, say $1,500, something like that. And there's definitely like a lot of demand for that, like $1,500, $3,000. I feel like I could get a lot of clients that way, but it's not fair to my other clients really. And to my family even.
Yeah, no. And that's, we spend a lot of time in financial planning shooting on ourselves. And many of us got into this business because we wanted to help people. And it's hard to tell someone no when we know we can help them, but financially it's just not the right call. And ultimately our goal is that we just continue to have more and more firms launching and joining XY Planning Network that you can send those clients to, because there are many advisors who would love a $1,500, $2,000 plan just to get things going and to learn and to help people, as their business is ramping and just aren't as far along as you. So, I think it's easy to should on ourselves and say, well, we should or should not do. But in the end, it's just got to be, you got to do what works for you and your family and the business that you're trying to build.
Yeah.
So what are some of the bigger projects that you're working on? What are you looking at over the next, 6, 12, 24 months, whatever the time horizon is, and some of the big focuses that you're going to have with your business?
I mean, I'm shifting more, like I've shifted my branding from the Stanich Group to Cultivating Wealth. So I'm excited about that. I'd like to do a course or, something that can be educational for clients and answer some questions without involving like my time directly. And so I'm working on something divorce related, and and also growing my team. Those are the big things.
All right. Well, now you can get inundated with resumes. Anyone who wants to work with Sara, email her. No.
I will say though too, and I said this, I did a presentation for XYPN about divorce, is that I think that for advisors, I mean, I'm kind of interested in doing consulting for other advisors on divorce related stuff, because if you only work with like 1 or 2 clients a year that are going through a divorce, you kind of like don't really understand it in the same way. And I think it can be really helpful to talk through it with another CDFA. So I don't want, your clients, but I want to help advisors, be there for their clients in that like moment of truth when they're going through a difficult time and they need advice about divorce, and the advisor, may or may not feel comfortable in that role.
No, that makes sense. So are you envisioning working with the end client or just consulting with the advisor?
I would say I prefer to consult with the advisor.
Yeah, it's always a tough position to be in, right? We're like, oh no, is Sarah going to try to steal my client? But to your point, like that, if you deal with this once a year, once every 5 years, there are plenty of landmines that we hope to avoid, that we need to avoid when we're working with clients that are going through such an emotional and, a lot of financial stuff going on that we could screw up and cost our clients a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a little bit of a local aspect to it. So I'm New York based. So that's the best place for me to talk about divorce.
Sure. Because you know all the state issues.
Right.
Fair enough. So if you look back over the last, couple of years of running your business and just sort of reflect on the big wins and the big losses, like what are some of maybe the one or two, big wins that you're really proud of, and maybe one or two of the things that were missteps that, other maybe listeners could avoid by hearing your story?
I mean, one kind of leads into the other, but when I started the business, launched the firm, I definitely threw a lot of money at it, some unnecessarily, like hiring consultants, and, I was renting, pretty expensive space in Manhattan. I had a full-time employee. Basically, any type of software that you pitched me, yep. I was like, oh, that could be great. And so my cost structure in 2016 was too high. And so, kind of paring that down a bit. And then also I just kind of like lucked out into basically moving into a much bigger apartment with a good location for a home office, that I was able to make that switch. So it was sort of a little bit of a misstep there, but, I learned from it and sort of adjusted the business a bit.
I appreciate you sharing that, because that's something we definitely see. You sort of have a few different types of folks who are starting their own business. Some folks start with very little in the bank, and so they, from day one, they're penny pinching. But those who are starting with a little bit more money or have some revenue, we do see sort of a time of spending, of trying out a bunch of different technologies, and come to find out like half of them have annual contracts you didn't realize you were agreeing to. And you can spend a lot of money on things that ultimately don't end up contributing to your practice. But, you got to go through that process and see what works and what doesn't work and that sort of thing. So it's not bad to invest in the business, but it can be easy, to let it get out of hand a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. And just, my time is really limited. I mean, I have 3 young kids. And so, I've had to kind of stop myself several times. I mean, I love learning. I would love to go back to school. There's, there are so many educational opportunities in this business, but I've had to stop myself several times, because it's just, okay, well, is this going to help? Is this going to help me grow the firm? And is this going to be the best use of my time?
So you said 3 young kids now. So can you talk to me about how you balance parenthood, motherhood, and being an entrepreneur that's running a successful business, and how you find ways to be able to be a mom, but also be a successful business owner?
Yeah. I mean, I joke that, running a business is easy and parenting is hard.
That I agree with.
Yeah. So I have an 11-year-old and 4-year-old twins, and, it's a lot. And, one of whom is special needs of the twins. And so, that kind of figuring out those things is almost like a part-time job in itself. So, working from home, that's part of the reason I did that, and having control over my schedule is really important to me. I have to be like really protective of the hours I work, which, right now are pretty much like 9 to 2 is the only time I'm having client meetings. I have an after school sitter, but I kind of need to be like available in the afternoons quite a bit. So, I mean, that's definitely slowed the growth of my business, but that's okay. There's plenty of time, and that's a choice that I feel lucky to be able to make.
Yeah, it's what I love about this business, is that you truly can build the right business for you and for your family. And if right now you only want to do meetings from 9 to 2, you can do that. And that's okay. There's no one that can tell you otherwise. And when the kids are older and you say, hey, I want to grow this thing even bigger and faster and open it up, and you can do that too, and it's why I love this business, because it's just so flexible to be able to build the right business for you and your family.
I do want to say, I think that women, the statistics are all over the place of how there's, so few women in the industry, but it's a great career for women. I mean, because of the flexibility, it's different, and you kind of do need some support at home, but you have control over your schedule. Also, the way that evolution of the industry from being more transactional to more relationship based, women are good at that. And so I really think that, women could, dominate this industry and definitely expand the percentages over time.
Yeah, we talk about this. I'm on a workforce development committee with the CFP board, and their whole the mission is just how do we get more people into financial planning? And we'll go through what are the benefits of the career, and you look at it, you're just like, how is everyone not trying to become a financial planner? And it's just so hard, because what we know to be financial planning is very different than what our what our parents believed was financial planning, and what we know it was and still is in for the majority of the industry. But I'm with you. It's just I think it's just the ideal, perfect career. It's just so hard sometimes to get past but I don't want to go sell insurance. I'm like, well, me neither.
Yeah. And I'm lucky I never did. So
Yes, I'll say, women who are listening, take that to heart. This is an amazing career. If you're not in financial planning, consider it. It's not all, it's not just going and selling, stocks and insurance door to door. It really is a helping profession, and it really is the opportunity to help a lot of people and make really good money and have a flexible career where if you want to take 3 to 4 weeks off a year, you can do that. Or you don't want to have meetings after 2 p.m., you can do that too.
Yeah.
So, Sara, as we're coming to a close, I'll ask you the final question. And that is, if you look back over the last several years, if you could go back and tell your younger self one piece of advice, one thing that you've learned that you wish you had known then that you now know, what do you think that one piece of advice would be?
I think I would have launched my firm sooner. So to just sort of take the plunge sooner rather than later. I spent years thinking about it. And so just if, I guess the piece of advice would be to trust my gut and take action.
Fair enough. Well, thank you, Sara, so much for taking the time to come on the show and share your expertise and wisdom and the path you've been down. And it's going to be really exciting to see your continued success and what you continue to build here in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
XYPN's Can't Miss Annual Conference returns to St. Louis in September 2019. This event is jam-packed with valuable content for new firm launchers and established firm owners alike. Take a much-needed break from working in your business to work on your business and connect with like-minded advisors leading the financial planning movement. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/XYPN Live Radio to grab your pass today. You do not want to miss this. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Hang out with other XYPN radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes with myself and Kitsis, and to finally find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thanks so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You're not alone, and you're not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm. And that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.